Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up the football gods. I hope everybody's doing good. It is Saturday. I know we didn't have our live stream on Monday night and Friday night. Was having a vacation with the wife, happy life, and we all want that. And Joe Boo, I'm sorry. In my haste to get everything done before going through the trip and so forth, I forgot to take Joe Boo. And it's even worse because my wife got him the perfect chair for him to be on the beach with. Joe Boo, I apologize. Please forgive me. I was not very good to you, Joe Boo. But I do have something that I will, Joe Boo, I promise. I just got to get into my bags and get it out because I got something special for you, Joe Boo, for the season. And I hope you forgive me. Please, Joe Boo. I tell you what, when I was on the ship and I was seeing that thunderstorm coming through those black clouds, I started saying, Joe Boo is really pissed. Anyway, as we get through here, we've gotten through our mandatory OTAs where the Cowboys have been out there working on the field. Guys are looking really good. Now, you don't hear about anybody just looking butt ugly. Nobody has talked about their quarterback. Our quarterback looks like ass or anything like that. All you hear are positive things. And you hear positive things about players that you forgot about. Now, the Cowboys released Tack McKinney, of course, yesterday, making space for I can't pronounce the last name, the Nigerian defensive end on the roster. And we've heard about some players that are looking really, really good in training camp right now. The thing is, think about, is it Medusa? Medusa, when you cut off one of the snakes, her hair is that snakes and stuff. When you cut off one of the snakes, you know how another one just kind of grows back? It's like a hydra. Okay, hydra is a better example. Hydra, the multi-headed beast, you chop off one head, and then you got another one that grows back in. That's what you have to have on a football team, is you lose a player, but you need that hydra to grow another head to replace them. Now, one thing we've learned, and this is maybe a cautionary tale, is we hear Terrence Steele may not be ready to start training camp. Knowing what we have learned from ACLs, we've got great examples showing us the difference of Michael Gallup before the ACL and the first season back. You may be cleared to be on the field, but that doesn't mean that you are 100%, that you're back to the guy that you've been before. And we have another example of that as well. Jabril Cox. Jabril Cox, fourth-round drafted linebacker, who was, let's be clear, he was highly touted, okay? We expected a lot of great things from him. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL. Came back last year. We still had the expectations of him doing great things. He played in, let me think, how many? I can't remember how many games he played in last year, but he only had 6 tackles. He was the forgotten man. In fact, Damone Clark, a guy coming back from back fusion, ended up playing really well and having like 48 tackles in a limited role. So you kind of forgot about Jabril Cox. But you start looking at that and saying, did he also suffer like Michael Gallup did from having the ACL recovery? And apparently that seems to be the case. He hadn't really recovered as well as they would have liked, and it definitely made a difference on the field. Understand that you have to be able to plant and go. We understand that with Jalen Smith, who had, of course, the drop foot from his, rupture, his ACL, everything tear on his. If you can't plant and change directions fully and be fully confident, and confidence is also part of that as well with an ACL. I remember when I tore my ACL in high school, in which case back in the day they couldn't just repair it. without doing a full cut across your knee, and it'd be a 2-year recovery. They took mine out, and to this day I still have no ACL. But I remember coming back, and when you plant, sometimes you'd plant and you just feel a little give in it, and you reach for it, and you kind of, nothing's wrong. It's just got that movement in it, and it scares the crap on you. Then you're sitting there worried about, is this thing going to go? Is this thing right? And you're hesitant on being confident on that knee. It takes time for that to get back, as well as all the strength, all of the flexibility and things that you had before. And now it appears that those things have happened for Michael Gallup as well as for Jabril Cox, because right now you expect to see now Jabril Cox moving up the depth chart and getting more and more playing time. And this is one of those things that you look at and say, if he's healthy and can play up to what was expected, all of a sudden your linebacking core, it gives you more opportunities to have different rotations and to keep guys fresh. When you start adding, of course, Damone Clark, who again, same situation where he didn't have training camp last year, coming back from the fused vertebrae. You start putting these guys together that are young, that are strong, that are healthy, that now are getting really into this defense. This defense is just going to get better and better. But on the flip side of this is where you have to worry is, will Terrence Steele be anywhere close to where he was before? Now, typically an offensive lineman is not predicated on speed, but it is definitely predicated on that first step and being able to plant and move. And so we may need to have some worry about Terrence Steele being able to and ready to start the season. This is one of the reasons why we've seen Tyron Smith playing so much right tackle. I think, and as I even said last year when we restructured Tyron Smith, and before we did, I said it might not be a bad idea to bring back Tyron Smith as an insurance policy, because if Terrence Steele isn't ready, you don't have to rush him if you can have Tyron Smith out there at tackle and bring him in so that way he's good and strong. And then, of course, rotate Tyron Smith. Maybe Tyron Smith ends up becoming, the swing tackle. You can get him some rest. And as the season goes on, or as somebody goes down, then Tyron Smith is the guy off the bench to help fill in without putting the wear and tear on him. I think this is actually a great idea. But with this money that the Cowboys still have, some of that money is going to go to their free agents. Not the free agents, to Diggs as well as to CD Lamb, but not all of it. And you're going to end up getting Dak Prescott's deal redone as well. You have some money. You may want to, instead of looking at the sizzle, more of the substance and that offensive lineman. Let's hear at least the latest from what they're talking about with some of the big name free agents out there before we get out of here.
I hope I do better here than I do at the roulette tables lately. And look, the team that I think should be rolling the die on DeAndre Hopkins are the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So we know that they don't have a clear number one receiver. They've done a really good job filling those holes, as we saw last year. They did win the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill, and we spent most of the offseason worried how would they fill in that spot. But they still need that top guy, and I think that would be a good fit. But, of course, money is going to be probably an issue, right?
Who should be rolling the dive on Dalvin Cook?
And we talk money, right? So the teams that I think that should roll the die on Dalvin Cook are the L.A. Chargers, right? So we know the running back situation there is sort of in question. And for Dalvin Cook, at the point he is at his career, we know he's not playing his best at this point, but this could be just a good fit in this offense with Justin Herbert.
Oh, and lastly, we should be rolling the dice on Zeke Elliott, one close to my heart there.
Okay, so we know that the Dallas Cowboys moved on from him, not because of the player, but because of the money. But now maybe perhaps the Dallas Cowboys should roll the die and just bring him back on a cheaper deal, something like we saw the Philadelphia Eagles do with Fletcher Cox just a season ago, where he rearranged the deal so you can bring the player back. It's a good fit. We'll see if the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, would be willing to make that move for Zeke.
Well, let's say in Dallas, because Cowboys are basically just 2 days through their mini camp, and that didn't stop Mike McCarthy from giving a ringing endorsement about Dak Prescott.
You know, because at the end of the day, I've always done it was like in Green Bay and all the way back to New Orleans. They need to own the offense. You know, I have no interest in being known as some guru coach or a smart coach. I'm a smart Hall of Fame type quarterback. The only way to get there is you got to make them own the offense. And he's done a really good job of taking ownership of that. And then with that, he's knocked it out of the park.
So Diane, we know Dak is due for a contract extension here in the near future. What more can you tell us about, let's say, the sense of urgency in Dallas to get the deal?
Yeah, and I think collectively around the NFL, there isn't a lot of urgency in terms of paying attention to the situation in Dallas, right? So he's got 2 years left on his deal. It's a $60 million cap hit for next season, right? So this is something where the Dallas Cowboys are going to want to try to get an extension done with Dak. And, you know, Jerry says that he wants to do this, right? So this is something we're to keep an eye on over the summer because, you know, they're going to want to try to get a deal done as we're seeing around the league right now, other quarterbacks looking to get paid, right? We know Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, we're waiting for those deals to get done. But Dak Prescott could be one of those quarterbacks to get it done, and they're going to want to because they're not going to want to have to pay top dollar.
Well, you know, you got Travion Diggs, you got Michael Parsons, you got a number of guys that need to get deals done in Dallas. Neat, is Dak worth the money that they're going to have to pay him? Is this a contract deal
Here we go.
Do this season before the season starts?
I wouldn't do it before the season. I mean, last year, Dak had 2,860 yards, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. If he repeats a similar type of season this year that he did last year, I don't want to be locked in to a long-term contract. Because if you look at the Dallas Cowboys, and what Jerry Jones has even stated in the past is he is chomping at the bit to get back to a Super Bowl, to get back to the old days of the Dallas Cowboys when they were getting into Super Bowls and winning Super Bowls. So at this point in this moment right now, I would be a little hesitant to give him a 4 or 5 year extension or a big contract, considering last year the number of turnovers, just the statistics alone. And you look at other quarterbacks and you look at other teams that are making it into the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, they're taking care of the football. So if Dak is going to be a Dallas Cowboy for years to come, this season, I would want to see him being smarter, making sure that he takes care of the football. Because at the end of the day, the worst thing that you can do as a quarterback is throw an interception, turn the ball over. The Dallas Cowboys.
And that's a valid argument. I will give you that's a valid argument. But here's the thing. I don't know where you're going to just go out and get somebody that's going to be better just off the bat, especially when you talk about money-wise. You know, we've seen teams like, you know, the Patriots move on from Tom Brady to get Mac Jones, and what has Mac Jones done? We've seen the New York Jets, you know, going for quarterback after quarterback, finally going to an Aaron Rodgers who's an aging vet. We've seen the Washington Commanders literally go from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Carson Wentz, and now, you know, they still haven't solved this thing. So to think that you could just go out to the football store and just buy a guy who's going to get you into the Super Bowl, that just doesn't exist. You know, even when we talk about guys like Justin Herbert, you know, oh man, he's a great, okay, but he ain't had a deep run in the playoffs. He ain't had a deep run in the playoffs. So it behooves you to say, let's go ahead and get his number as low as possible, and let's add pieces to win a Super Bowl. Because Matthew Stafford doesn't win a Super Bowl. I mean, it's not talent alone, because he didn't do it for the Lions. It wasn't until he went to a team that was full of talent that he won the Super Bowl. It's just the case. And Jalen Hurts, without all the talent that they added, gets destroyed by Tampa Bay in the playoffs the year before. So I hear your arguments that Dak, oh, don't give him another contract. Yeah, well, if you don't give him another contract, you're basically setting him up to fail because of the number, which is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If they don't do the extension and you do take a $59 million cap hit, you do have to shed the talent. Then they can turn around and say, well, see, we told you, you don't give them the contract because this is what you're going to get. And there's a big difference of Dak Prescott having a broken thumb and coming back and playing the numbers he did with inferior talent than what he had before. And I know the Dak Prescott haters out there will be saying, yeah, just blame it on the talent. Well, I don't see, I didn't see Noah Brown getting, like a $25 million contract like Tyreek Hill, going someplace that he was going to be a great, game-changing wide receiver. I didn't necessarily see any of the guys that we have on the roster, going places and being big-time receivers going to Super Bowls. Just didn't. Talent matters. All right. And there you have it. And Jobu, I'm going to take care of you later on today. And I've got to visit a friend in the hospital. And we have some stuff we got to do to get ready to get back onto the Red Brick House. So as always, you know how we roll.